The English version after the short intro. Willkommen beim Agilophil Podcast von und mit Frank Hampe. Agile Entwicklung für dich. In diesem Podcast bekommst du die besten Impulse dazu, wie du die perfekten Produkte für deine Kunden erschaffen kannst und natürlich auch, wie du dich selbst und dein Unternehmen voranbringst. Welcome to a new episode of the Agilophile Podcast. This is the English version and special episode of a German language podcast series about the agile way of working for business and IT. If you have heard my podcast before, then you will have noticed that agile development in companies is always associated with common sense, positive goals, and humanity. Therefore, today a special episode in a special time addressed to all despots and dictators around the world. Beware. Don't overdo it, otherwise you will perish. Systems based only on fear can never end up victorious. There are many examples that prove this. The Dritte Reich, Third Reich, and the collapse of socialism are just two examples that showed that a regime based on oppression and fear has no chance of a future. It may last for a while, but sooner or later it will go down. Of course, this does not only apply to states and societies, this also applies to companies, and therefore this episode fits to the content of my podcast series. Fear is a strong feeling, which occurs especially when our mind is not in harmony with our thoughts and actions. So you can say that fear is a result of an inner mind that is not fitting to our thoughts and actions. Our mind, you can also call it heart or great spirit or subconscious or even God, knows very well what is good for us. However, our little mind, our consciousness, our rational thinking and our actions can be strongly guided by external influences. If these two elements go different ways, a feeling of discomfort, pressure, and fear arises. Often, and especially in oppressive regimes, this fear is used to direct people. However, this requires a huge amount of energy to build a system that constantly refuels fear. We know this from the past, especially in Germany. The Gestapo, the Stasi, were organizations that served to keep pressure and fear high enough among the people in order to secure the power for those who are in power. And of course, you can find things like this also in some companies, maybe not at this perfectional level, but there's a tendency, well, the pursuit of power, what is it? Power means the ability to influence people or groups in such a way that they subordinate themselves and behave according to the will of the powerful. The more this desire for power becomes independent, the greater the energy that must be put into it in order to maintain the machinery of oppression. But one thing is clear. You will never have so much energy that you will be able to prevail against the needs of your entire workforce or your entire people or all of humanity. We always have to remember that as soon as a point is exceeded where the discrepancy between fear and one's own needs become too big, the mechanism will reverse and the powerful will lose their power. This has always been the case and will always be so. And this is a thing we call revolution. We have now reached this point again. Everyone has the basic needs for a life in peace, freedom, and happiness. Attempts to limit these basic needs may succeed in short term, but in the long term, they are doomed to failure. You are not fighting against a numerically inferior opponent that you can defeat. You fight against your own people, the people of the world, all of humanity. Are we all aware of this? We, as humanity, are invincible. If we stand up for peace, freedom, and happiness for our basic needs, then power cannot lie with the group that wants to limit this. Therefore, people of totalitarian regimes or employees of exploitative organizations, let's get up and degrade the despots of the world to that what they really are. Small, poor, insane men who belong on a trial or in a closed institution to prevent further harm to humanity and the planet. The tasks ahead of us, climate change, overcoming hunger and poverty in the world, are greater than the pursuit of power of dangerous ill men. Suction is stronger than pressure. So what I mean is, intrinsic motivation to fulfill our needs is stronger than extrinsic motivation to fulfill the needs of somebody else. The pull is on the side of those who are in harmony with their spirits, where spirit, thinking and acting is one. Therefore, the Ukrainian people will not be defeated, nor will the freedom-loving people of the world. If you live in a totalitarian regime, then be aware that you are not alone. In Germany, we know the saying, "Imagine it's war and no one goes," which can be interpreted in different manners, of course. Resist the order of a totalitarian regime is only possible if everybody really participates, because then the power of the regime has vanished. But it means courage and struggle, a fight against the powerful who believe they are aware of their power and superiority at the beginning. The power of the powerful dwindles with the number of those who oppose this. It is dangerous, and the first will be defeated. But an aggressive army, driven by pressure and fear, cannot prevail against an entire people guided by objectives and needs, especially not when the people in this army are aware that they themselves have in reality the same needs as humans. You won't let your tank roll over an unarmed pensioner who stands in your way. He could be your grandfather or uncle. In this respect, despots and dictators of the world, don't overdo it, otherwise you will go down. But maybe we should think all about whether this would be the better way in general. Think about that and act accordingly. Your Agilophile Frank.
Das war der Agilophil-Podcast von und mit Frank Hampe. Wenn du mehr wissen möchtest, dann komm auf meine Webseite frankhampe.com und tritt der agilophilen Community auf Facebook, LinkedIn oder Xing bei. Wenn dir mein Podcast gefallen hat, dann freue ich mich natürlich auch über eine Bewertung. Am besten, du abonnierst den Podcast einfach, um keine Folge mehr zu verpassen.